and welcome to the latest edition of the TMC podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan, and here's my co host, Andrew. Andrew, what's up?
What's up? How's it going?
Going good. What you been up to?
Trying to get this PS5, fighting off all these little kids on the internet.
And
But we got it, so
were you able to get it?
yes we did, yes we did. Day one
Nice.
launched.
So we have a loaded show for today's episode, and we have a very special guest. He's from the Poly Post, and he's a staff writer. Let me introduce you guys to Arturo. Arturo, what's going on?
What's going on, man? Thank you guys for having me today.
Yeah. All right, so let's just jump right in it because within this past week, we saw the Clippers choke and they gave up a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. And the Nuggets have proven to be resilient and always fighting back. But the real question in everyone's minds is what went wrong with the Clippers and how could they fix it? Arturo, you're our guest. Let's start with you.
So, obviously with the Clippers, it's big headlines as we know it. From the start off, from the initial get going, game one, we saw the Clippers easily, beat a tired team of a Denver team that, just finished a 7-game series with the Jazz. So, we all saw that Kawhi, Paul George, what the Clippers are meant to do, dominate, be very good on the defensive end with, Harrell, Lou Williams off the bench to bring more offensive power. But after game number 4, after they took a 3-1 lead, everyone thought that was it. Game 5 came along and third quarter hit, and that's where the Clippers just started to slack off. Blew in a 16-point lead in the third, and then the Nuggets ended up capitalizing on it with Jokic, his shooting from 3, his ability to score from the paint. The assist from Gary Harris, Grant, Morris, and then Murray, who had a couple off games, but eventually turned it around. And we thought 3-2, not too bad. But then the third quarter came in again for game 6.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Paul George went quiet. Well, Paul George had a better game in game 6 than he did in game 5. Kawhi had a quiet game. And then, the Jokic was probably the most unstoppable big man throughout this whole series. Zubac couldn't stop him. And then we saw, Lou Williams, his effectiveness gone down a bit, which we're known of seeing him score 20 points or so off the bench. Then we saw them blow yet another lead, like I said, in game 6. So we all thought, game 7, we all know those famous words. It's a time where, the best of the best step up. The pressure's up against the wall. And I certainly, for one, thought that with the Nuggets playing a previous series against the Jazz in a 7-game series, they know how to play with pressure. They know their back's up against the wall. It's do or die. And I just feel like, to me, the Nuggets were more hungrier. They feel like it just displayed it on the court that they wanted it more than the Clippers. Doc Rivers' inability to, find ways to stop Jokic. It was to me, I think it was a determining factor for the Clippers' ultimate collapse and losing game 7. No one expected them to lose by such a large amount, and it's something that the Clippers have to look over the offseason now. A very short offseason. It's only not that long compared to our normal offseason in the NBA, but it's something that we didn't see coming. So it's
Arturo,
a question. What's up, man?
So you're bringing up, you broke down the series pretty well, and going off based on what you said and stuff, do you think it was more the Clippers lost the series or Denver won the series?
I would say it was more so kind of 50-50. But in the sense of because if the Nuggets, once they were down 3-1, they could have easily, just kind of like come in game 5 with a lackluster approach. Games, that's it. Everyone's, turning their backs on us. Series is over. Good luck. Nice try, Denver. Good luck next year. But I feel like knowing the pressure it comes with it, they thrived on it.
Mhm.
And the Clippers' sake, I feel like they feel like they took their foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah.
And
Andrew,
that's
what are your thoughts? Do you feel like the
Personally,
Nuggets
I feel like
won
the
it
Clippers
or
choked.
the Clippers lost?
The Clippers definitely choked away some leads. So I think Denver overall was the better team, obviously, but they blew what 2, 3 double-digit leads against the Nuggets. That's just not finishing, man. That's kind of like that's just the Clippers choking it away. I think the Nuggets did well to come back into the thing, but I feel like that ultimately the Clippers melted down, getting a little too cocky.
Yeah. So, I mean, the saying is that's in the past now. Looking forward, do you think the Clippers, like, what's the next step for the Clippers? Is it a new coach or bringing in some new players, or what do you guys think? What's the next step for the Clippers, and should people be counting them out for next year?
I feel like the Clippers, they probably so they're gonna have to do with who they have right now. Obviously, they're gonna lose like Montrezl Harrell and some key role players, but they're kind of set on their players. Like you're Kawhi and Paul George for
Yeah. They
another
have their
year.
core.
Yeah. So that's where they're at. But I feel like they're definitely gonna make a coaching change. Doc Rivers is probably gonna get out of here. Um, I don't have a personal opinion on who should be the coach. Maybe another point guard, just like no coaching experience. But yeah, I feel like overall Jason Kidd might be in the running for the job, or like some of the free agent head coaches that are out there right now. Um, but yeah, I feel like they're gonna get a new coach, but like their core is who they are, and it's up to them to see who they can pick up in the off season to get better or worse.
Arturo, go ahead and jump in. What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, obviously the initial plan when the Clippers traded for Paul George, it came from Kawhi's side where he said, "You get me if you get Paul George," and just the Clippers just decided, you know what, let's go all in for this. You traded away five first round picks for a guy in his prime who's wanted to be in a situation where to lead a team to a championship. And like like uh like Andrew said, it's they got to deal with what they have right now. I mean, to me, I feel like coming into this year for the Clippers, it should have been it's a to me a ring or a bust year. You pick up names. You have guys like Montrezl Harrell, who may be leaving.
Yeah.
Lou Williams, who is still the best, arguably probably the best six man in the NBA right now. Even though Harrell did win the award,
Mhm.
but uh, you know, this is the year that Kawhi was the number one guy on the team. This is I feel like it's the pressure got to him a bit, but I mean, looking for the positives for the future, you could see, like Andrew said, a new head coach. I definitely agree with that. Um, Doc Rivers had plenty of chances to get the Clippers over the hump of the second round curse that they've weren't never able to get over, get into the Western Conference Finals for the first time. I feel like it's time for a change, a new direction
Mhm.
in sense of coaching. I feel like Doc Rivers did what he could with the team, and I feel like bringing in a new foundation, maybe a Ty Lue who's been looking to get a job, and for a head coach would be a great fit for them. Um, I know they talked about Sam Cassell. There's potentially, Mike D'Antoni is on the for the market, but
Mhm.
it's a tough call. It's something they have to kind of go back to the drawing board and maybe start from scratch when it comes to the head coaching wise. But players should be fine. I mean, it's something to learn. Where now they have next upcoming season, they'll have something to play for.
Yeah, and you guys are bringing up good points, and one thing that like it's the core about the core Clipper players are defensive minded, and I think the one person that I'm not gonna bet against is Jerry West. Jerry West is still like in charge of the basketball operations with the Clippers, and we've seen wherever he goes, it's gonna work out some way somehow. If they have to make another trade this offseason, I feel like Jerry West will get it done, and he'll spark some more energetic players. Because man, when we watched the Clippers in this series, they did not have energy at all. Like you need to have, I don't care if it's the bubble or it's you're playing basketball in a parking lot. You need to go out there and play with some emotion. If it's playoff basketball, so I think that's a move Jerry West will probably have to make, is bring in, if it's younger players or just someone to bring that energy up. And coaching wise, I'm with you. Um, both of you guys made some good points. Like there are some good coaches out there in the market. Which one fits the Clippers best? I don't know, because there's still a lot of question marks with the role players on the Clippers, and role players play a huge factor in the we've seen on NBA rosters. So Andrew, I want to get your thoughts. Is it smart to bet against Jerry West?
Um, I think it's smart to play against the Clippers or bet against the Clippers. So what does that lead to? Maybe them canceling out. I don't know. Jerry West shows that he's a good GM and that he can get it done, but at the same time, the Clippers franchise is just historically bad. Maybe they're cursed. Who knows?
It's as simple
But
as that.
yeah, it's just they're cursed, man. It's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes your franchise isn't meant to win, and then one year you win, and then like it's the best year ever, and then you just get injured every single year. Cough, cough, Eagles. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that they have a nice, as long as they got two superstars on their team, they have chances every single year.
Arturo, what about you? Would you bet your money against Jerry West?
That's a tough one to call. Like you mentioned before, you made a great point. Everywhere he's gone, it's been successful. Look, he's the one who brought us Kobe, the late great Kobe Bryant, to from the Hornets in that draft '96 to 20 great years of basketball to bring us 5 championships. And when he went to Golden State, he brought in Kevin Durant, and I feel like, to me, this is where Jerry West is like will be at his strongest. The way like he can approach a player to talk about coming to the Clippers. Maybe it'd be tough, but I feel like for the Clippers' sake, it's just they're always gonna be playing second fiddle. I feel like for the Clippers' sake, they more try to equal the popularity of the Lakers and not so much focus on themselves,
Ooh, okay,
because
I like that. I like that.
it's always LA our way. It's they always talk about Lakers Clippers, Lakers Clippers. We're always they try to granted they got 2 superstars. I mean that gained massive popularity for their franchise. Markability of having Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, having a championship team, but I feel like Jerry West may struggle just because of the fact that, well, who knows? I don't know what goes on to his mind because he come up with brilliant things, but he has a lot of work to do in the sense of getting that team that's focused more so on winning than being the loudest and then trying to beat their crosstown rival.
Yeah,
So
definitely. So we're gonna Jerry West is definitely has his back against the wall here, trying to figure out what's the next step with the Clippers. But for now, we're gonna move on to our next topic. Um, so you guys know the NFL has just restarted, and Week 1 just finished last week. I see everyone hyping up the Saints again every single year. Everyone's on the Saints franchise saying they're gonna win one. They're gonna win one. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not necessarily the case. The Saints, what I seen against them, against the Buccaneers, I was not impressed at all. I think Drew Brees is hanging on by a thread. He could barely complete intermediate routes, and it's kind of, you could just see it, just the way the Saints operate their offense. They bring in Taysom Hill to make big energetic plays, and they don't even utilize Drew Brees' arm downfield anymore. There was a moment in the game where Taysom Hill came in just to throw a post route. And I think that just says enough. Like, the Saints don't even trust Drew Brees to take the Saints over the hump. Um, Andrew, what are your initial thoughts? Do you believe the hype the Saints are getting, or not really?
I think at the same time, while you can say like Drew Brees did bad originally, it's just one game. I'm not gonna throw out like Drew Brees is washed after one game. He was still looking good at the end of last season, as far as we could tell. So it's not like you don't want to count out an all-time great and be one of those talking heads that fucking 1 week later all of a sudden looks stupid as hell because they said Drew Brees was gonna be the worst quarterback in the NFC or whatever the fuck. So I would say don't count out Drew Brees just yet. They look decent on offense. I think they can still bounce back with better quarterback play. So I'd say don't count out the Saints yet.
I think, okay, so this isn't just after one game. I've seen this the past 3 years, and each year Drew Brees completions down the field 20 yards or more, they have been decreasing the last 3 years. Last year he only hit 37 20 yards down the field throws. And I just feel like, and then at the playoff game, Andrew, the only reason the Saints were still in it, it wasn't even Drew Brees that took them into overtime. It was more Taysom Hill, and you kind of saw their fan base like kind of hoping, crossing their fingers, maybe Drew Bre- that Drew Brees will retire just so they could have Taysom Hill in.
Um, I wouldn't I wouldn't say I still see Taysom Hill as more of a gadget quarterback. He makes big plays because like he comes in special plays. But also the whole thing with like the Saints offense regressing to like less than 20-yard plays is just because that's kind of like the personnel they have. Like that's who their best players are. Like you don't expect Michael Thomas to be one of those like burners catching deep balls or like uh being like over 20 yards plays, you know? Michael Thomas is like we know what he is. He's like a sure-handed intermediate route receiver, and then like his second best like receiver can arguably be Alvin Kamara, and he's coming out of the backfield, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like just like playing to their strengths. That's kind of like who their best players are. I do want to see this offense with I think Jameis is the backup
Yes.
because Jameis Winston is just like a fuck it, throw that shit type of quarterback, right? I think it'd definitely be a little interesting. Um, Especially after the 30 touchdowns, 30 fucking interception season that he put up last fucking year.
Arturo, I
Um,
want to get your thoughts. Andrew brought up Jameis Winston as quarterback. Do you think that's an upgrade right now over Drew Brees?
I don't necessarily see it. I feel like a quarterback, you have to be very consistent. Your ratio from touchdowns to interceptions has to be, more so on the touchdown side because you got to have a quarterback that's accurate. I feel like that's a key component for any quarterback in the NFL. You got to, put your passes, where your receivers can either catch it in front, try to not limit behind the back catches where, it's more difficult for them. I feel like Jameis Winston, I feel like it's something he can learn off of Breeze, you
Mhm.
know, but in the sense of relying on him, I may kind of feel more that Taysom Hill is someone they should utilize a little more than Winston.
Yeah.
Give and take, I mean, Winston does, show a little bit of, a potential, but I mean, it's a tough one because I mean, I feel like the Saints are just, riding the Breeze train as much as they can,
Mhm.
try to win a championship to potentially retire. I mean, he is 41.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
believe
how
this is his
much?
last year with the Saints.
I feel like it's like you said. I feel like kind of like going back to the Clippers is like a championship or bust. I feel like this is the only year they have to go full out for a title, but it's a tough one. I
Yeah.
feel like Winston can just more so like learn from him. I wouldn't
Mhm.
trust him just yet with the offense.
Yeah.
Let Brees have his last year, then we'll see what goes on from there.
Drew Brees he's interesting because one thing that you brought up, Arturo, is that he is very consistent and his completion percentage is one of the best ever in the NFL. But another concern that I have with the Saints, because it's not just Drew Brees, I feel like the running game isn't isn't that well, like it's not well adjusted to what to current NFL defenses. Elvin Kamara struggles running the ball between the um, between the guards. So what they usually do is that they utilize Elvin Kamara as a receiver more so. But during the playoffs, is I saw like the Vikings, they just put a linebacker and they press him up, and that takes away his ability to receive. So they had to go back to trying to run him up the gut, and it just doesn't work. Obviously, right now the NFL defenses don't show as much as they do in the playoffs, so that's why they you've seen them the past 2 3 years. They kind of coast their way through the regular season, but once it comes time to win and get to the Super Bowl, they're not able to. Um, Andrew, do you have any thoughts on Elvin Kamara? Is he the right back for the Saints?
I think so. I think when you have a guy that can be as explosive as Alvin Kamara, you really need that type of player on any team, really. The thing is, if you can't get like Alvin Kamara going in the rushing game, what we're seeing now more and more is running back by committee.
Mhm.
And I think that'll be particularly useful, especially with the struggles Alvin Kamara is going through right now. That way you still can keep the explosiveness of Alvin Kamara, and you can get your run game going a little bit better.
Yeah. Because like defensively, the Saints are one of the best defense I've seen over the last couple seasons, and they really built up their secondary. They brought in Michael Jenkins to shore up the safety position. Um, Andrew, do you think if Drew Brees doesn't get it done again, do you think they draft a QB or what do you think is the next option? Because this team is talented and they're young. Because they can't just go into rebuild mode.
I think they're gonna fuck it and roll with Jameis, if I'm being honest with you. Um, Especially if they're going into contention this year. Like, there's not much else you can do. You got to take a bridge year between tanking or like getting a top quarterback in the draft or being competitive, you know. So Jameis Winston is gonna have to lead this ship for either a year while like someone else develops behind him as a late round draft pick, or you got something has to go horribly wrong, or they got to be able to trade up. They have some draft capital. I guess it's just their draft capital, but
Yeah.
um, it's gonna have to be a trade up, and especially if you're contending, it's not gonna be very easy.
All right. So I want to continue with the Saints because recently the news came out this week that Thomas has a high ankle sprain and it's gonna be some weeks. Do you feel Arturo? Do you feel like the Saints are gonna get exposed these upcoming games?
Well, I mean, this upcoming Monday, I believe they play my Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yes.
mean, the Raiders looked okay against the Panthers. They Ruggs did get hurt. They lost a couple. Trent Brown. They kind of hurt a bit, but I mean, it's knowing the Raiders. I know how they are. Like their tendencies is like when it comes to against big teams, they don't really necessarily perform well. I think this is a game where the Saints do show that, like you mentioned before, that explosiveness, where Drew Brees is going to show, like, you know what, this team is ready to win a championship. This team is ready to contend, to make a deep run in the playoffs. That I feel like this is like an opening statement to the rest of the NFL and their division to know that this team is scary. So I feel like they wouldn't get exposed just because of the fact that let me see if I were to see their schedule for the next upcoming weeks. I know they play the Raiders on Monday.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like they will not be exposed. I feel like they will, get it click. like Andrew mentioned, if Kamara, they get him going in the running game, I feel like that's a key component that Drew Brees needs. So just so he doesn't rely on him so much. I mean, first game he went 18 for 30, 162 touchdowns. I mean, it's not Drew Brees numbers that we know of. And
Yeah.
I feel like they need to utilize Kamara, get him going early, just so his confidence can start building up. And when it comes to those later weeks into the season where, it's crunch time, playoff mode is going to start activating for the team, it'll help out Breeze for the long run.
Yeah. So, you guys bring up good points. I'll leave it at this. Taysom Hill might be the biggest X factor that no one really knows about. And he might be the reason why the Saints get to the Super Bowl. And it won't be Drew Brees. I'll leave it at that. You guys could disagree, but we're going to go on to our next topic. And, we're going on to week 2 in the NFL. And I was looking at the schedule. I was like, let's see which matchup can make the biggest impact for later on in playoff positioning. Kind of that early loss that comes back to haunt you guys. So for me, I thought the biggest matchup was Eagles versus Rams this week. I feel like because the next 5 games for the Eagles and Rams, it's not that easy. Andrew, you're an Eagles fan. Do you think this is a must-win against the Rams?
Yeah, it's especially a must-win because me and Kev have a bet that the Eagles are going to lose 5 games in a row. Personally, I say no, but if the Eagles lose, that's going to be a little tricky for the Eagles the rest of the way. Plus, you do want to get some good momentum going into your tough games. But I'm confident in the Eagles. We're getting a lot of people full on the practice report, so everyone's full participant, and hopefully we can not allow like 8 sacks and 10 turnovers this year
What do
or
the
this
Eagles
this
need to
game.
do to win this game? Because your running game struggled against the Washington Redskins. Is that something you think will carry on since the Rams front is pretty? I mean, let's be honest, they have the best defensive player in the NFL.
RB1 Miles Sanders back in action this week, so we'll see how that goes. We're expecting a giant leap. He was putting up great rushing numbers last year. First game back, we'll see how the jitters play out. But ultimately, this game's gonna rely on Carson Wentz. He kind of fucked it last week. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Held on to the ball too long, took too many sacks. He could have thrown away like half of them at least. Um, but yeah, he's trying to force plays and he's trying to be a big player. But he's gotta play within the system, I
Is
think.
that because he doesn't trust the O line in front of him?
Not particularly. I feel he stood in the pocket even in all his sacks if you rewatch him.
Mm.
So he's not looking to like instantly scramble out of the pocket like when Russell Wilson was playing in Seattle and he didn't trust his O line, right? The second Russell Wilson fucking touched that ball, he was running. Um, I think he's putting too much faith in a lot of the young guys we had to step in. Because we did have like a rookie right tackle starting, and then he got dehydrated or hurt or something, and then we had Jordan Mailata, the rugby project in there. He held his own pretty decently. I mean, that's what you want to see, but it's still not the line that we normally put up. So I think Carson put too much faith in the line. Um, but Lane Johnson's back this week, so uh, hopefully those time to throw numbers get a little bit down.
Yeah. Arturo, I want to get your thoughts on the Rams. They won the stadium opener. They beat the Cowboys. It was a narrow game, but they're in the toughest division in the NFL in the NFC West. The Cardinals look legit. The 49ers, their defense is still pretty good. And then, I mean, look at Russell Wilson. He's putting up MVP numbers again. Um, do you think the Rams have enough to at least make the wild card, let alone win the division?
Well, I mean, from beating the Cowboys, I mean, as a Raider fan, I can't stand the Cowboys, so kudos to the Rams. To beating the Cowboys, I know I have a bunch of friends that are Cowboys fans, so it's good to rub it in their face. But I mean, for starters, they do it. It was a close game, but I mean, They are, like you said, they are in a tough division. You know, it's not an easy one. The Cardinals, like you said, DeAndre Hopkins, he looks at his probably at his best. He looks ready to, him and Kyler Murray are going to be connecting a lot more than what we just saw the first week. Russell Wilson's doing what he's meant to be doing. The Niners just had a little hiccup, but I fully expect them to, with the defense that they have. And then Garoppolo will have a better game than he did the first week. It's going to be tough. I feel like the Cardinals may be like that dark horse team to make a run for the wild card, but I potentially see if Jared Goff gets it going, continues what has a better game than he did, I feel like it would be a strong case for the Rams to make it to the wild card. I mean, they did miss the playoffs last year, so I mean, it was, or did they make the playoffs last year? I'm not too sure.
The Rams?
Yes.
No, they missed it by a game.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that was right after they came off a Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I mean, Goff 20 for 31, 270, and then he had no touchdowns and he had a pick. So I mean, I feel like this to start off the season isn't the best start for the Rams. I feel like it's something they should, work on a little, tweak a couple things. But if everything goes smooth, if Goff connects the defense, Aaron Donald, he's gonna do what he has to do on defense. Jalen Ramsey's gonna be doing what he has to be doing. They pay these guys a lot of money, paying Goff a lot of money to invest in these guys, young, ready to hopefully bounce back on a good year. So, like you said before, I think they do have a good chance of making the wild card. Winning the division be a little tougher, but
Yeah.
I feel like they do have a good chance of making wild card.
Yeah, so like with everything that's been said, I feel like this is a crucial matchup for the Rams. It's more so for the wild card spot. There's 7 teams that can make the playoffs now, and I think that's their ceiling, like the 7th seed. But for the Eagles, it helps that they're in the NFC East. I really don't know who's the best team right now. Washington's in first place. I doubt that it stays like that. Andrew, do you think the Eagles could 8-8 get them the division title?
I don't. Okay, so the thing we all know about the NFC East is that no one has been a repeat winner multiple years in a row. Now that's where the difficulty for the season comes in, and that's where I struggle as an Eagles fan to put them on top. Not just because of that, but because of like inconsistencies we have with injuries and a lot of the young offensive weapons we have. It's going to take quite a bit for them all to step up, as well as like our older people we're relying on staying healthy. Because as we've seen, we lose a fuck ton of people to injuries. Just consistently, it's honestly kind of fucked. But
Carson Wentz, injury prone.
yeah, Carson Wentz too. I mean, if he's not the answer, I'm perfectly fine with rolling with Jalen Hurts. I'm more of a who's the best guy for the job kind of guy. It doesn't matter if Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, or if we fucking sign Dak Prescott. Whoever's best at the end of the day is who I'm fine with being in there. But other than that, I'm really on I'm erring on the side of caution due to injuries. I feel like the Eagles dropped the division this year, and at 8-8, I don't think we're gonna win the division either. I think someone's gonna at least be 9-7.
Yeah. So Andrew, the next 5 games for the Eagles, and then the last 5 games. So the next 5 games and then the last 5 games are really tough. Where it was last year, it was the opposite. The Eagles had a pretty easy pretty easy schedule going into the playoffs. Do you think it's just the way the schedule worked out for the Eagles? Is that the biggest concern?
It just happens, man. You always get a tougher schedule when you win the division from the previous year. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Man. The Eagles do good this year. I'm on that train. The Eagles do bad this year. I'll still be on that train next year. So
You're a real fan. You're a real fan.
yeah, man. After watching the Lakers for 10 years, not do anything, I'm ready for anything.
Before we go to our final topic, I want to bring up one quick NFL talking point. Joe Burrow was the only rookie QB to start. Um, the Bengals are facing the Browns right now. I don't know if you guys are watching on your TV, but I'm really impressed with the way he's shown to be a leader and the way he and when he was put in a crucial position to take the Bengals down to for a field goal to tie the game, he was able to do it. I don't know if you guys seen the highlights or anything at all, but what were your initial impressions of Joe Burrow? Do you think he's the right guy? Is he gonna live up to the number one pick? Arturo, we'll start with you.
Hmm. Okay, so Joe Burrow, as we all know, probably had one of the greatest college seasons his last year at LSU.
Yep.
Finished out with the Natty, which number one pick, which we all knew. People were, the media, everyone was saying going to the Bengals is just worse than going to the Browns. So, but overall, what I saw, I mean, he knows the situation at hand. He knows he doesn't have the best team. I mean, his ability to run, which is going to be crucial for him for these first couple years with the team. He has to be careful with that though, just because linemen that are 270, 300 pounds can run a lot faster than the guys in college, more fit.
Yes, sir.
But overall, I mean, he will struggle. Don't get me wrong, everyone struggles in the first year, but as long as he makes, he'll make those rookie mistakes. But I do see a promising career. Hopefully, the Bengals can get this one right, and now hopefully, like they got an up and down player in Carson Palmer when they drafted him at number one from USC. So hopefully, it's not another situation like that. I hope he can lead this franchise, be that building piece foundation for them for the next couple of years. But only time will tell.
Yeah. Andrew, go ahead and jump in. And what are your initial thoughts on Joe Burrow?
First things first, at the time of this question being initially asked, Joe could touchdown. So
Yes, sir. That's
did
why I
not.
brought it up. I was like, I'm really impressed now. We had to mention it.
Yeah, so I don't I don't know if I've ever stated this before, but I don't watch college football too often. Uh, it's not my thing. A little too busy for college football. Um, so I don't watch college football. Don't know too much about Joe Burrow. I know he won the national championship. I know he was hanging out with a cigar in his mouth in the locker rooms and shit. So he's got a bit of a swagger slash edge to him. But overall, what I've seen from Joe Burrow so far is looking kind of promising. Um, he's definitely bringing that like I'm the leader, I'm the guy type of guy. I believe he's captain, like he's like the first quarterback to be like a rookie captain from the
Mhm.
beginning or something like that. He's doing something.
Yeah.
But like that shows that he's obviously the leader in the locker room in his first year, and that's super impressive to do.
Mhm.
So I'll give it to him. I think he's got a lot of charisma. He's like a Baker Mayfield, but without like talking shit to the media. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're about to see these Baker Mayfield commercials go to Joe Burrow in a second.
But for the
Yeah.
good way.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to make it clear. We all agree that Joe Burrow he has that it factor. We're not saying that the Bengals are gonna go out here and win the NFC North now. Nah, I
Oh
know,
no,
like no, no, no.
no.
But there is something to him. Even if they only win 4 games, I think the way he the way he operates and the way he's able to control the locker room speaks volumes, especially like Andrew said, he's a captain as a rookie QB. Like that's insane that they follow you. I think it's a bright future and we'll see. But I like I like the foundation pieces that they have around him because they still have AJ Green. So AJ Green can talk to him about coverages, and they have a couple young receivers in the works. And we can't forget about Joe Mixon. He's a great running back in the league. He just got paid. Um, yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what Joe Burrow has in store with his NFL career. It's definitely a good start. With that being said, we're gonna go to our final talking point for this podcast. We're gonna preview the Lakers and Nuggets Western Conference matchup. Andrew, we'll start with you. What do you expect? And give me a prediction.
Lakers in 5. We'll start with that. Lakers in 5. I expect AD to abuse Jokic. He's done it a lot in the regular season, so we're hoping that he continues it. And of course he's going to get his. Jokic is a phenomenal player, and he's been showing that he's a playoff performer. But I'm hoping that we get the regular season Jokic AD matchup because AD's a little bit more conditioned than Jokic is.
Jokic lost a lot of weight since the regular season, Andrew. I don't know
These
if
are
you
facts.
know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But he's still looking hella gassed out there. Plus, they're coming off a 7-game series. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for the Nuggets. They're probably gonna have momentum going into game 1, but the way I see it, it's not gonna be very easy to beat the Lakers coming off 7-game series, and then 3 days rest. But yeah, I think the Lakers are gonna drop game 1. Just because of the sheer momentum the Nuggets have coming off of it. But I think, as we all know, the Lakers are going to be able to adjust defensively. While the Nuggets do have shooting, I feel like they're not as high powered as the Rockets were. And while the Rockets were hidden, they were hidden. They had that game where they scored 50% of their fucking 3-pointers on like 43s taken or some shit. So I feel like the Nuggets a lot more of our speed. I feel like the Rockets were a bigger threat to the Lakers personally, but yeah, Lakers in 5.
Arturo, go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Lakers in 5. I've been thinking about this pretty much all week. Well, since all week, who's going to be playing the Lakers. But now that it's the Nuggets, I feel like I'm leaning towards the 5, but I might say it's 6. I feel like the Nuggets now deserve the respect of, like, I'm not saying they're like one of the top contending teams, but it's a team they should, be recognized as a team that isn't going to go down easily. Because we saw in the Lakers series against the Rockets, ever since, like Andrew said, game 1 against the Rockets, they dropped. And as like the Rockets came up from a 7-game series, just how the Lakers the previous 2 series have dropped to game 1. I do feel like, though, it may be 6 just for the fact that the Lakers will, I think, drop game 1. I feel like they will. Jokic is going to have a good game. Murray, I think, is going to be a really key factor for the Nuggets in this game since there's no really, like, Caruso's good on the defensive end, but he's no, like, a Beverly who can lock you down a little tighter.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like the Lakers, that AD Jokic matchup is going to be, I think, the turning point for both teams. Who's gonna show up and who isn't? But the real questioning for me is with this series, with Jokic guarding AD, who will be guarding LeBron on the Nuggets side? I feel like LeBron in this instance knows he's been in this position multiple times, making 7, 8 straight final appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he was in the East. It was an easy conference compared to the West, which is now more, every single team has like at least a duo superstar, a pair. The Lakers on their side, they have to work on making their jump shots, man. Their 3-ball. They can't be shooting how they did against the Rockets game 1, shooting 29% from the 3-point line. It's just not acceptable in an instance for a conference finals. I mean, LeBron is the only one LeBron, Danny Green, Dwight have experience with the conference finals. The rest of the young guys, first conference finals. Nuggets, a very young team, so it's gonna be a close one. It's gonna be an entertaining one, but I do say Lakers in 6. I think the Rockets will take game 2 and game 4, and then the Lakers will take games 1, 3, 5, and 6.
All right. Yeah, I mean, you guys are making good points. I want to now, with that being said, with both of you guys taking the Lakers, Andrew, we'll start with you. Who's gonna be the X factor? Who's gonna be the guy that's gonna make the biggest impact? We had in the previous series, we had Rondo. He really stepped up and he made a difference. Do you think it will continue to be Rondo, or can we see someone else step up and make a difference? Go ahead, Andrew.
I feel like LeBron is honestly gonna be the biggest difference here, because, like he said, who the fuck is gonna guard LeBron, dude? Uh, for the Nuggets, it's obviously gonna be Jamal Murray, because Jokic has shown he can get his, but I feel like a lot of the defensive focus is gonna be on Jokic, and so far the Lakers have done good jobs, taking their focus to like a certain superstar on the other team. But if we're talking about role players, I feel like we're gonna see a lot of. I feel like Rondo's gonna kind of get us burned on the defensive end against Jamal Murray. So hopefully we try to mitigate Rondo on Jamal Murray. I feel like he will have a good series because at this point playoff Rondo is looking real. But it's gonna be one of the other role players stepping up because like that's what we really needed to win. We're seeing Markieff Morris come into his own more and more. Fucking Danny Green actually hit more than 2 3-pointers without taking 10 of them. So I think as the Laker role players are finding their groove, you don't need any of them to like particularly go off for like 10, 15 points. You need like maybe as long as they're hitting their shots, you know. So
Consistency, right?
yeah, you just need them to hit their shots.
Yeah. Arturo, do you have a different X factor, or who's your X factor for this matchup? Nuggets or Lakers?
I say for the Lakers, it's a wild card.
Mhm.
It can be. Andrew, answer me this before I continue. Who is the Lakers' third best player right now?
Right now, easily Rondo, especially after the Rockets series. But that
Okay.
shit changes all the time. Unfortunately
Exactly.
for the Lakers, they don't
You
have a
didn't hear
third
what
best player
Frank
that's
Vogel said,
solid.
huh, Andrew?
Huh?
You didn't hear what Frank Vogel said, right?
What did Frank Vogel say?
He was asked this question as well. Who's the third best player on the Lakers? And Frank Vogel responded to the reporter. He said, "Who's ever open." It was that simple. Because there's always someone open with the way the Lakers play. It's just if they make the shot. All right, go ahead
Exactly.
and continue, Arturo. Sorry about
Exactly, Jonathan. You're right there because it's we all thought Kuzma was going to be the guy, which is why we kept him when we made this trade for AD. You know, we wanted. I wanted to keep Ingram, but I feel like he wasn't going to develop as he is right now under LeBron, and I feel like Kuzma is that one guy that we needed him to step up. But obviously, he's very inconsistent. Has days where he shoots, days where he's just I don't know what the fuck he's doing. It's those little tendencies that he has, and I feel like with in this last playoff series, I feel like every player's had their moments to step up. Like you mentioned, Andrew, for the Rockets, it was Rondo. Rondo was probably the biggest factor in making sure the Lakers, that was his third best player. For the Blazers, I think it was Caruso. His work on the defensive end, making sure from the moment Lillard got the ball, he was already pressuring him from full court. And I feel like to me in this series, I feel like we know Caruso is capable of a defensive end. We know Rondo what he can do for the Rockets. I feel like for this Nuggets one, I feel like it's going to be a wild card. I feel like someone else is going to take the reign of the third best player because I feel like the Lakers as a unit, it's anyone. I feel like Jonathan said, as long as they're open and they make their shots, that's to me the key component. I feel like that's the third best player making the shots. Making the shot is what's very crucial for the Lakers. And for the Nuggets side, we know Jokic, we know Jamal Murray. I feel like to me the third best player who's going to be stepping up for them a lot, it's going to be Paul Millsap. If it wasn't for him in that game 6, that third quarter he had 14 points, the Nuggets wouldn't have won the game. Let's be for real. If it wasn't for him,
Yeah.
the Nuggets would have been out by now. Probably would have been watching game 1 of the Western Conference Finals right now with the Clippers and Lakers. So Paul Millsap for me for the Nuggets, a wild card for the Lakers. So it's whether who wants to step up.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are bringing up good points, and I know earlier today I went on and I watched past games between Lakers and Nuggets this year or this season, and I'm always so interested because they always play the Nuggets tight. So even if Andrew and Arturo think that the Lakers will win in 5 or 6, I think those are going to be these games are going to be tough and down to the wire. Like the Lakers are going to do everything they can, but the Nuggets, like they do the whole playoff run, they're just going to keep fighting. They're going to keep fighting, and we'll see if Lakers could land that knockout blow. But overall, I think it's going to go down to the wire. Each game is going to be fought hard. It's interesting because as I was watching, I was like, the Nuggets, the way they operate, it's not that different from the Lakers. It's really a two-man game. They use that. They get the screen on top. Nokic, he stays right there, and then once he gets the ball, he has the option of just shooting the mid range or the three wherever he's located, or he could pass to the wide open guy. And like what we said earlier, the Lakers, it's the third best person is who's ever open, and that's their method as well. So it's like they're facing a mirror image of each other, the Nuggets and the Lakers. But I feel like as I watch what the Lakers are as of right now and where the Nuggets are, I feel the energy I feel like the Nuggets are just out. They're gonna be gassed. Andrew mentioned they went back to back 7 game series.
True.
That's insane. The Lakers are rested. They're coming together as a team. They're really glued in. Um, if I had to predict, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers sweep the Nuggets. I'm gonna just say straight out sweep. I want the Lakers to put AD on Jokic. I know AD prefers to play the 4, but you're this close to the finals. Why risk it? Just put him on Jokic and let him lock down. We all know he's the real defensive player of the year. Let him show it in the biggest stage. Andrew, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, AD's gonna have to take on Jokic and be the guy. As long as he does a good job, I think the Lakers are unbeatable. As long as AD is there to um pick up some of the slack. Well, like this is how I see it. Even if you don't have the role player or the third role player, the third star, um, AD and LeBron alone is good enough to win you the game. You can just have a
Yep.
two-man game and still win the game. Um, but that's like if AD is on and LeBron is on. But we already know what we get out of LeBron in these situations because he's been here time and time again. But what we don't know is how AD is gonna respond. Because we've seen AD take a few games off here and there, and he still drops like 29 points. But like when AD is on, AD is on. He's dropping over 40 points with like 5 blocks and like 12 rebounds. So I think in order to put this series away easily, AD has to dominate Jokic. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to see.
Arturo, I want to close off this Lakers Nuggets talk with someone that the Lakers fans actually haven't really heard of for at least a while now. Dwight Howard. What do you think his role is going into this series? Obviously, he didn't play much against the Rockets because of their small ball, but um, yeah. So, what do you expect from Dwight Howard? Could he secretly be an X factor?
I feel like he can. I feel like when you look at not just only Dwight Howard but JaVale McGee, I
Mhm.
mean, before I go into that question that you asked me, Jonathan, I want to say that when it comes to the what you said about
Mhm.
the sweep, and I feel like I am leaning towards a sweep, but more, I want to give Nuggets the credit that they deserve. It
Yeah.
could be just a generous thought of them winning two, but
Yeah.
I do see the possibility of a sweep, just because I feel like in the beginning of the year, I feel like the Lakers, when it comes to a team with veterans,
Mhm.
I'm looking right now. Dwight Howard's 15 years in the league. Danny Green 10 years. JaVale 11. James has his 16th year. Davis is entering in 7th. You have Rondo his 13th. You have guys who've been here so long who knows what it's like to be in playoff basketball. The intensity of it, and I feel like that in it alone is it makes a head coach, it makes Frank Vogel's job a little easier
Mhm.
because it's not like he's teaching brand new a new system to to kids. These are grown men that know what it is in the situation, and I feel like Dwight Howard, him being previously in the Western Conference Finals and back in 09, like with the Magic, I feel like he can be a disturbing factor with his rebounding. I mean, he is a defensive player, former defensive player of the year, so we can't disrespect him just like that out the way. I would say though that his issue is him getting into foul trouble very quickly. I feel like
Yeah.
that if he gets into foul trouble and you have to, McGee can give you 10 points, 8 points at most, a couple of rebounds, but I feel like Dwight Howard is going to be very crucial. He may be a little rusty out the gate because he haven't played much, but if he does, if he knows in the situation what he needs to do in order to take the Lakers to the finals, back to the finals, then I feel like Dwight Howard could be that key factor for this series in regards to guarding Jokic and then just giving what he can, giving us at most 12 points, if more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's very well put, Arturo. You make solid points about the expectations and the age of the Lakers team. It is one of the oldest, but that means they have more experience. They have Danny Green with the championship with Toronto and the Spurs. So, you have it really well put. Um, you know, the reason I have the Nuggets getting swept is just because, they're young. I didn't think they were gonna make the Western Conference Finals this year at least. I think they
Yeah.
were like a year away. Because I mean, we still have Michael Porter Jr., who could become a star, and that would really help the Nuggets next year. But as of right now, how I see this playing out, I feel like I feel like even though the Nuggets are well coached, I feel like the Lakers just have the momentum and they're really glued together. Um, any final thoughts, Andrew and Arturo, before we end the podcast?
Lakers in 5. Arturo, plug if you need a plug. If not, man, keep your closing thoughts.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you guys for allowing me to do this podcast. I was not gonna lie, I was kind of nervous. Never done this before, but I mean, from what I gotten so far with the hour we're talking to you guys, it's I feel like it's natural to me to talk about sports. I've tried to learn more about the NFL, so I'm always keen to learn more about sports. I mean, sports in itself for the three of us, I feel like it's something that we were passionate about.
Yes, sir.
So I really appreciate you guys, for allowing me, the rookie. I would say I call myself a rookie, and do my first podcast. So I'm glad it was with you guys. So I appreciate that. But closing thoughts on the Lakers, I would say to change it up, I probably would agree with Andrew and say Lakers in 5.
Mhm.
I feel like experience over inexperience will be the key factor in this. Playoff Braun, man. I mean, we witnessed it against us. Now he's with us. So this is championship number 17. Well, yeah, 17 for Kobe. This is for
Yes,
Kobe,
sir.
man. That's for Kobe,
Yeah.
man. I feel like to me they got to wear the game 2
Mamba
or the
jerseys?
jerseys. I feel like they got to keep wearing them, dude. I feel like wearing them, it makes them a different team, man. The brotherhood that they have is beyond unstoppable.
Yes, sir. That's very well put. I like it, Arturo. With that being said, Andrew, go ahead and close us out.
Catch us in 2 weeks when Jokic is on the podcast because he's gonna go home